You're unmuted.
Are we ready?
You're unmuted.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I will welcome our guests. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Uh-oh.
You're good.
All right.
To the pledge of allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, that was kind of scary.
It has to do with the YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna call the roll. Niffy, Meredith,
Here.
Dave Primer has an excused absence with an ill sister. Steve Green is not excused and not present at this time, and we're starting, so we do have a quorum. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? And would anyone want a copy of the agenda, brief though it is? Additions, deletions?
Well, since neither Dave nor Steve are here, do we need to talk about the
New
various
business?
fire chief salaries?
No, we'll
There's no
carry that.
motion that was distributed, and I'm assuming there would be no second, then I don't think there's a point in keeping it on the agenda.
You want to keep it on the
No,
agenda?
I do not see a point in keeping it on. the
Yeah, it's
agenda.
already been discussed anyway. Okay, so we're gonna eliminate, and that's 5-2 under new business.
We'll bring it up again when they get
Yeah,
back.
okay. Are there any conflicts of interest of the board related to any agenda items? No. I'm gonna ask for the approval of the October 24th meeting minutes.
Accept the minutes as posted.
I didn't hear you.
I move that we accept the minutes as
Okay.
posted.
Do I hear a second? I'll second it.
I always think you should since I
Yes.
write them.
Mhm, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. So the minutes are accepted as posted and they are on the website. We will go next to the treasurer's report. That's you, Niffy.
Not gonna read the treasurer's report for common practice. Everything is updated. I will note that as we're preparing our budget for the final adoption, maybe that's 15 December. We will have changes from what was originally posted. We were given some instructions that the backfill that we received the last 2 years it was 13 or 18,000, 13,000.
Yeah, somewhere, I think you can be in between there
In
somewhere.
between there's like backfill that we get for expected revenues for taxes that the state has elected to backfill. And we've been advised that that's not guaranteed this year. So we're going to cut that from our budget. So we cut that from our budget. Also, there was a discrepancy between what our anticipated revenues were as published by the county versus our actual valuation from the county multiplied against our mill rate, which increased the revenues by $3,000. So just some slight tweaks so that we've got the budget there, but we pared things down, and then I'll get with Chief to see what's most important to add back. But again, our budget is revenue neutral. We do not spend more money on operations than we collect in revenue. We do, however, have capital expenditures from which we take out of our reserves. But that is a fundamental principle about, it's the only way I'm going to make a budget. It's the only budget I'll vote for is if we are revenue neutral. So and that will be maintained. That concludes. Is there a question?
Yeah, when do we recertify our mill levy? Isn't it coming up?
It's 31 January.
December.
And there's one that's weird where it's like you have to submit it, but you don't have to have it certified until January.
Right, there's,
No, it's a certification. We need to certify it, but then we submit it
Yeah,
to
it should be-
NOLA.
So it should be the mill levy is certified in December, I believe.
yes.
December
And then-
15th.
15th.
December 15th.
Technically, the finalized budget isn't due till January 31st, I believe.
Yes,
but you usually submit the budget at the same time as you submit your mill levy.
I apologize. I should know this.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, you should.
The intent is that we will do that all at once. Well,
December
on the
5th,
15th, but we'll vote on it at the next board meeting.
which is early. It's December 5th. It's just 2 weeks away. And we move everything up because of these deadlines and the holidays and what have you, but mainly the deadlines. And the treasurer's report is on the website for anyone that wants to see it. I always copy it out. So if anybody wants to look at it now, Sheila?
The board now does the DOLA fund for the budget and the mill levy. Thank you, Mara.
It's us this year. I did it last year.
I'm
And
preparing the resolution.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll figure out where to send it.
they've changed their filing
Procedures.
procedures. And I'll need to get that paperwork because
And you just gave
I
another
took care of
copy.
it last year. It has to go through the portal, and then there's all other places where all this things have to go to the county commissioners all over. So we get it done. All right.
Just a moment. Sheila, you're looking at the budget. Do you have any questions?
I had a question about utilities. Are they kind of running the same for all police stations as they have in the past, or has there been any big increases in like propane or?
They're running lower. And then because we're gonna do that heat pump system, it'll be a fuel switch, so we'll get away from the volatility of buying propane and have pretty much set on electricity. Anecdotally, because I don't know where, you can buy propane from all different sources, but my experience has been that I'm paying significantly less to heat my house with electricity than heating it with propane. So that should come down.
But do you think we have seen a small increase in propane or utilities at 82 when we brought a resident there? When we brought the resident
Oh,
in 82?
Yes, we did actually talk about that. Having someone actually living there, you want to have our temperatures higher. There's a human being that needs to be taken care of, so. And as far as I'm concerned, the offset and paying a little bit more on propane for heating and cooking and the hot waters to me, what I would think was the most significant increase, because we have someone that's showering. That is offset tremendously by having someone that's literally living in our district with the first responder. Firehouses.
Anything else, Shane?
There's someone around to make sure the pipes don't freeze and we don't run out of.
That's also why we're looking at doing the secondary heat source that Niffy like you're just talking about, is that we need a secondary source of heat in that station. And we'll talk about, and I mean, it's kind of something that we have talked about in the past and we'll hit again during my chief's report.
When you start renovating or working on
Yeah.
improvements of 82, you'll
Yeah.
address that. Sheila, anything? No? Okay. Chief's report?
Okay, all right, we'll go into that. This is a little bit of a shorter report because there's been only a couple weeks since the last board meeting, but we lifted the stage 1 fire restrictions. All the fire ban signs that we had posted on the district were removed. Jeffco Road and Bridge, in coordination with CDOT, closed all of the major east-west corridors to commercial truck traffic during the last large storm. I think it was mostly publicized that it was I-70 and 285 that were closed, but they also closed all of the other small tertiary ones. So CDOT closed the big highways, and then to support that, Road and Bridge closed the smaller tertiary east-west for commercial truck traffic. I think it was a really significant improvement for us. We didn't see large semis trying to come up and down Golden Gate Canyon Road, but also because of the I-70 impacts that we see when I-70 gets closed, there were no I-70 shutdowns. And from talking to the folks at CDOT, they are very happy with the way that went and with Road and Bridge. I let them both know how impactful we thought it was. And that they're hoping to continue to hopefully take that forward every time there's a large snow event where they can close down the east-west corridor. And again, just to make sure people understand this, it's only to commercial vehicle traffic. That's technically a semi-trailer. It's not being closed down to someone personally driving a trailer. It's not being closed down to a person, like our normal vehicle. Essentially, it's like our first stage of closure. And we think it's a great step forward for us. Administration, so this Orkin contract has been in place for about a month. For the last 3 weeks, we haven't seen a single sign of mouse or insects in the stations, which is a huge win, considering the fact that I feel like every time I've gone into Station 81 for my entire time being chief here, we have had either rodent feces, or I've heard them, or something else is, in there, and they have been scant for 3 weeks. So that's a huge improvement for us. So that's working really well. We began our website update process with Cobweb Designs. They're our website design contractor. If you remember, we got a grant through that from the State Internet Portal Authority. We're seeing some really quick progress on that project. And the initial renderings are really giant steps above what we currently have. Not that what we currently have is particularly unusable, but it really will increase access for the district and create a really good bank of resources for people. And I think that's the thing I'm mostly excited about, is having an organized bank of resources for people to be able to access.
Can I ask a question about that? Document retention, I believe like the last time we updated our website, we lost a lot of.
100% document retention is the goal. And Trisha from Cobweb Designs is going to be doing that migration professionally.
Cobweb is appropriate.
Yeah. The big news that came out of the election that affects Golden Gate is that our mutual aid partner to the east, Fairmount Fire, did vote to consolidate with Arvada Fire. So essentially what that means is that all of our borders to the essentially northeast corner of the district will become a border with Arvada Fire. It changes the way we operate a little bit, in that instead of operating with a smaller 3-station entity that was combination, we're now going to be bordered by a very large fire department that has no volunteers and has quite a bit of a different staffing model. However, we really don't anticipate any changes in service in that border, or along with our mutual aid agreements. They seem really open and supportive of keeping mutual aid agreements that were currently held or are currently held by Fairmount Fire. If there is any changes after we meet with Arvada, I will bring that to the community. But as of right now, we're thinking all things are going to move ahead as they currently are. It'll just be a different color truck that shows up.
Question on that. So isn't our mutual aid agreement essentially void at this point?
Correct. So we have to re-sign the mutual aid agreement. So that will be something that I do have to bring to the board. So essentially at this point, we may have some small tweaks in there, but it may be as simple as a letterhead change.
The question that I would ask is, the area covered by Arvada Fire is significantly larger. And this is not that I don't want to help our neighbors, but potentially drawing a geographical boundary somewhere that might have been consistent with Fairmont. We could potentially be responding to incidents that are very far away. And
I think realistically, as far as the mutual aid agreements already exist with Fairmount, there is geographical bindings to that. The only things really where Arvada Fire or Golden Gate's going to be sending apparatus to Arvada Fire, or what was Fairmount Fire, is the same thing we'd be sending to any of our Jefferson County neighbors, which is TAC tenders and wildland fire units. And in that type of event, as we saw, we sent trucks to the Quarry Fire. We'll send them all the way down into North Fork. That's just part of the mutual aid agreement for Jefferson County, and that will continue to stand with Arvada. But I don't anticipate them calling Golden Gate on the regular, routine structure fire type calls.
it wouldn't be the same.
No. I think that, the chance of us being requested for a call on the very western portion of their district that was previously Fairmount, that does not have a cistern for water support, is still in a potential, and probably will continue with the mutual aid agreement. But I think that'll just basically be a copy and paste. Let's see here. There have been some pretty significant changes after that merger, and also predating it with Jeffcom. All of essentially all of the Golden address fire departments, with the exception of Foothills and Genesee Fire, are what's called central dispatch. We're our own dispatch zone. So that we're the central dispatch partners. And what was happening previously was that dispatchers from the other consoles or the other areas within dispatch were having a hard time training on central fire dispatch because we were doing things really differently from the rest of the other agencies. And so in order to decrease the threshold for people to be able to get trained onto central fire dispatch's consoles, and also decrease any errors that may come from a transition of a dispatcher who is training, we tried to streamline our protocols as well as our operations to kind of better align the best we can with some of the larger agencies. And so we've been working with them pretty heavily and that is really Golden Gate, Golden, and Pleasant View that are going to be left on central fire dispatch as Fairmount goes on to Arvada, which is their own dispatch console. So we're just making sure that everyone here is the same. The other thing that I forgot to put into this report that does come from the Fairmount merger is that the Fairmount will no longer be being covered by Stadium Ambulance as of the 1st of January. The plan is that there will still be 2.5 ambulances in this Golden system, but the ambulance that was staffed at our Fairmount Station 33 on daytime, so they're staffed between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., will now actually be moved to the center of the district, to the center of Golden. So it actually is going to increase our service level a little bit for the Golden area, and that we will see a better call share amongst the 3 ambulances. So that's going to be potentially a good thing for our system for the next year, while the contract remains in place until it goes up for rebid, which I believe is in 2026. So it'll be rebid and end of 2025 for 2026. So that's good. But it also came out of the Fairmount merger. So there's some things that are kind of up in the air from that.
Who's providing EMS and ambulance services for Arvada?
Arvada provides their own. Yeah.
Chief, would they, if we were in a mutual aid situation and Arvada had to respond and it was a medical call, would they send their own ambulance or would Stadium come?
So Stadium is our initial provider. They would be the first ambulance. If Stadium is not available, let's say we have all 3 ambulances out and there's no other Stadium ambulances within a reasonable response area, then we are probably looking at Arvada Fire at this point now, because they're moving that ambulance closer, or Gilpin. So that is the other changes that we may occasionally see in Arvada Fire ambulance up there. It won't be something that happens regularly, but it may happen occasionally. Let's see here. Grant, any other questions about that I can answer? Because I know it does change some of the ways we operate in the district.
Pay for ambulance service?
No, currently we do not.
How is their expense covered?
Individual.
Patients.
Yeah.
Patient,
Yeah.
your health insurance, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's
If you're broke, how do you pay for it? All right, never mind.
grant updates. We initiated the project that we got from the SIPA grant. So that we talked about earlier, that's in process. The direct distribution, which is the SCBA grant, we are in initial discussions, and I approved the purchase with our vendor, which is C Western. We are, fingers crossed, going to be taking delivery of those SCBA's bottles and face pieces before the end of the year. We will see how the supply chain works, and that hopefully it works in our favor for that. We are going to be retaining 10 of our most recent SCBA's that were acquired in the previous grant process as backup SCBA's and for training. So we are not going to be using the newer SCBA's for training to kind of keep abuse off of them. We're also going to use that. So we're going to have a total fleet of 30 SCBA's. So that'll be helpful for us. It'll also allow us to put packs on trucks that we currently don't have the ability to. So for example, my vehicle doesn't have a pack on it. And we'll be putting a pack on the rescue. The tender will have full packs. Everything will have full packs. All of the chief staff will have an individual pack that they'll be able to have with them at all times. And then we'll have, I think, believe 5 or 6 packs for training. That's a big deal for us because it will allow us to take, let's say we have a burn training that's in Golden, or we're over in Evergreen or in Clear Creek. We can take those packs and not take them off of a truck. So it keeps the truck in service without affecting any of the packs that go along with that truck. That's a pretty big deal, at least in my opinion, it is.
And those are breathing.
Correct, yeah. So that's the plan to move forward. And we will take the other packs, other than those 10 that we're gonna hold back from our stock now. And those packs are actually gonna get donated back to DFPC, to be recycled back into the system. It sounds like there are some other departments on the eastern plains that are further behind than Golden Gate is in their refresh cycle. And we hope that those will all go into good use.
Are they safe to use?
Yes, well,
They're they're expired from what I.
that will be up to the individual agency that chooses to use them. Yeah, so that's Golden Gate's not liable, put it that way. for anyone
That's really what I.
I know.
If they're not good enough for us.
No. Golden Gate will not be liable for anything that happens after the packs leave our care. They literally will get transferred through DFPC. They're coordinated in some way that way.
What's the value of that?
That grant, 1,500 or, sorry, 155,000, sorry.
155,000. Thank you.
So yeah, that was the big grant. We are coming into grant season again. So we currently have the AFG grant open, in which we're looking to put a submission for. There are a couple other grants that have to do with wildland fire, as well as EMS, that are out there that opened either within the last week or will open between now and January 31st. So we're definitely looking at the grants that will come due for next year already, and trying to get into that cycle.
Would those include the potential for reapplying for the CWPP funds?
Potentially, we're investigating that. The only tricky portion is that we've already engaged with our contractor and we've already paid a portion of it. I do think that there might be some opportunity for us to get grant funding for the remainder.
Yeah.
As it's a year-long process, but that remains to be seen. And as we remember, the grant that we did get originally denied, we're more like put on hold. It's still possible that we could obtain grant funding from that process.
The difficulty with a lot of these grants is they stipulate you cannot do a single thing until you hear back.
Yes, correct.
It's kind of frustrating.
Yep. Ties your hands, makes things slow.
We're applying for the grant because we need to do something. Because we don't want to wait a year before we can do the thing.
That's why some of the grants that we've gotten this year, the fact that we've been able to turn them over and see operational improvement within 6 months of application and award is pretty great. Even with the SIPA grant, the fact that we were able to apply, be awarded, and see those funds within 6 weeks was pretty incredible. The other grant update is that we did get our transfer, and it might probably in the treasury or the treasurer's notes. Actually, it would have been during November, so probably not. We did just receive our transfer for the purchases for the bunker gear that was under the firefighter safety and disease grant that we were awarded. So we did just receive that funds back into the district. So there's a lot of good things happening there still. Operations, we saw pretty significant uptick in our call volume during November. We also experienced a couple of really high acuity calls. We had a really significant car accident that was very involved off of Douglas Mountain. We've had a couple CO calls, things that are kind of in line with us going into winter. The only public service stuff that I have to say is please make sure that you're being careful when you're driving, especially on that backside of Douglas Mountain. It gets really icy. We seem to go onto that particular corner every year for a pretty bad car accident. And we've already gone to that one for the year. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. Also make sure that you're checking your CO alarms, smoke alarms, and you have your chimney swept. I think countywide, there are quite a few chimney fires that happened during that first cold snap because it took people by surprise. And we want to make sure that all those things are getting done just for your all safety.
Do you have a recommendation on the frequency of cleaning chimneys?
Annually.
Every year.
Annually. Yeah.
I just thought the chimney sweep was trying to get money.
No, it should be done.
Yeah.
The creosote that can build up on the inside of a chimney, especially an older chimney, is very flammable. And chimney fire is no joke. It sounds like it's something that's contained into a non-combustible area, but the heat that's generated by a chimney fire can cause a propagation of fire to the rest of a building relatively quickly. So we want to make sure that that's being cleared.
Oh, my chimney brush.
You knew Robert. I have the vacuum.
The UTV replacement process. So we received 3 bids for UTV replacement. Actually received 4. I talked to the officers about it yesterday. We did receive a bid from one vendor that was outside of the state, which was in Wyoming. Originally, we thought that vendor was going to be lower than the ones we got in state, which is why we got that kind of counterpoint to see where that pricing was going to come from. However, all of the lieutenants reviewed the quotes yesterday, and they've come to a vendor that they want to use. I believe it's Planet Honda. And so that's where they're going to move forward. We're going to be moving forward with a 1000cc Honda 5-passenger UTV that has flip-up seats in the back. So it's actually perfectly built really for emergency response. I believe it's probably built with that in mind. It has a flat bed that has seats that come out of the back. And it also allows us to put one seat down and have one seat up. So we actually can slide a patient litter into the back and have a patient attendant. Timberline Fire has this exact model and has it built the way that we're looking to build it. And it is really great for their uses, and we're going to continue to follow that model. But there's pretty common in the fire service that people are using this particular UTV model, and it is within our budget.
We just buy Timberlands.
I think they use theirs way too much for them to give to us. But that'll be, that's the way we're going to move forward. We are eventually still hoping to have one on both sides of the district. But we are moving forward as a district with this first one.
It'll obviously service local.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That's the other good thing is that like the Honda dealership is very close. Yeah. So we can take it back and forth. And we do have, the trailer in order to transport it. The other thing that is good for us is that it being a 1000cc unit and being relatively lightweight, it will go fast enough for us to be able to safely drive it locally on the road. And that should be helpful for us getting to and from backcountry calls or being used as a secondary support unit for wildland or whatever else we would need it for. It's going to be a really good improvement for us operationally.
So it's just rubber tires, not tracks?
Yes, currently the tracks are a secondary purchase. And tracks are usually not provided by, or even built by the manufacturer. They're a secondary, like separate manufacturer. Yeah. However, there are tracks available for this model.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes. So good. The officers really did a ton of due diligence on this process. And they know exactly how they want it outfitted as we move forward. And we do have funding from the previous allocation that you guys gave us in the last board meeting to outfit it the way we need to. So that is really awesome. Let's see here. Personnel, we currently have 23 operational members, 3 support services members. The volunteer recruitment effort is going way beyond what you anticipated. We have several firefighters that have really gone above and beyond what I believe that the district has done, at least in recent memory, to recruit. They've hosted multiple events at Colorado School of Mines.
Wow.
They posted flyers, in a bunch of the gyms in the volunteer catchment area, also coffee shops and whatever other venues that they thought were appropriate. All of the emergency rooms, on the western side have a Golden Gate recruitment.
This is our guys and gals doing this?
Correct.
I'm not hearing you.
John, thank you. I can't hear anything either. Local team, can you hear us? Hello, local team. John?
Yes.
Oh, you can hear me, John. Thank you. Paul, can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh, local team. Kyle, board. We've lost audio. Board. All right, those who can hear me, I'll reach out to the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks, Chris.
Welcome, Paul.
Can they hear us?
Sorry, y'all. I couldn't connect with the board, so I don't know if we're connected or not.
Thanks for trying.
Community lost connection. Can you check, please?
Hey, Chris, this is Trent Miller. I just tried calling Meredith. She didn't answer, but I did see she looked down at her phone, so I just sent her a text.
Trent, thank you. I'm trying to reach Deb and Kyle, but I appreciate that you gave that update. I'll keep calling them.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Can't hear.
John, hang tight. I'm calling in.
Thanks.
You're welcome, sir. For those online, they are aware of the issue and they're working on it locally. So hang tight and you can respond, but they're working on it.
Thanks, Chris. I just got a text from whoever's hosting Niffy or Kyle one.
Thanks for that update, Paul. Yeah, they're working on it locally. Same message
Chris,
came
can
to
you hear me
me.
now?
Oh, there they are.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. We can hear
Okay,
you.
yeah, for some reason, I think it's the conference system that we're using. I'm gonna re-switch back to it and see if we can get that established.
Yeah, thank you. We're live. Thank you.
Chris, you hear me still?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We hear
perfect.
you. Could we get confirmation, Paul, John?
Yeah,
You-
I hear you.
I hear
Thank you.
you.
Okay.
I hear it too.
All right, perfect. And unfortunately, the only thing you guys missed was my me just continuing to talk about Chiefs report stuff. That's all in the report itself. But in general, just looking at doing the resilience for the stations, I think is important as we move forward.
Okay, did we
Tuck-
finish with the heater issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
So CWPP updates moving along on track. Ember Alliance spent 2 days doing a district evaluation earlier this month with myself. And we also held our first advisory meeting with the team. The most important note, however, and this is actually incorrect as this has been changed since I wrote this report, but we will be holding the first community meeting for the CWPP with Ember Alliance on December 9th.
Oh, you had second.
I had originally, we had it scheduled for the 2nd and we moved it to the 9th because of the holiday. And do we have a time for that? Do we know?
7 to 8. That's what I heard.
Okay, so I believe the current scheduling is December 9th from 7 PM to 8 PM. It will be virtual only. That decision was made so that we can get as much participation as we can throughout the canyon. There will be meeting links that are sent out through all of the different local website or web community email lists. I believe Terry is going to be posting connection links here at the Grange. It's going to be available everywhere so that we can get as many people within the community on that meeting as possible. I will definitely be putting it on social media and on the website.
And it'll be posted on the website.
Monday.
Correct. Yes, it is a Monday. Yes. So the 2nd Monday in December.
Okay.
Yep, so that's the most important thing there. There's no additional spending authorization requests. And there's nothing on the kind of strategic timeline stuff. Any questions for me regarding fire department or operations?
I do have one question. As far as we've got additional SCBA units coming in,
Mhm.
and we're gonna have 30 firefighters. Are we geared up for 30 or with this new equipment?
Good
coming
question.
in?
Yeah, good question. So SCBA's is actually not based off of the amount of firefighters you have. It's based off of the amount of seats you have on apparatus. So at any given time, we don't expect all 30 firefighters to be on a call. Even during the Gultra fire, we did not have all of our firefighters at one time. So we want to make sure that every single riding position within a truck has a appropriate SCBA. And then also our command staff has SCBAs, and then we also have SCBAs that are allocated for training purposes. So we now will move forward with all of those being in play, even though the numbers are similar to what our membership numbers are, they're not correlated with each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the current status of Firewise? Who's collecting information? Are we doing it? You are.
Terry.
I'm still the coordinator, I believe.
Yes.
Will be, I know Lori Brill is working on it. We will be collecting data probably the first of the year, and resubmitting it, but they will not give it to us until we have a complete CWPP.
I know.
They turned us down last year because ours was outdated 2011. So this is why the push and why to get this.
So you
done.
just want an email with numbers? Is that what you want?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
think-
I'll hit you up. I have the list from last year. Go around. Thank you.
There's gonna be two other meetings with the community. One of which will have more activation items where we're gonna be obtaining data like that from as many people as we possibly can through some activities. And I think we can also probably use that for Firewise as well.
Right.
I think if they see that we are absolutely in the process, possibly,
We're good about it. Thank you.
yeah.
All right, that's all I've got.
Okay, community organizations, Grange first, auxiliary first.
We have a meeting in 2 weeks with our report at your next meeting. We have nothing between now and then.
Okay,
So thank you.
and auxiliary DD.
So Steve Ramsden for auxiliary. We're in the middle of our letter campaign from the pig roast, and that has brought in roughly $4,000 extra on the litter campaign, and that campaign is still open. The auxiliary is funding truck storage unit rollouts for the trucks. Right now, they just pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, throw everything in the back of the pickup and you have to dig and crawl and look for things. We are buying them pullouts with storage sections, so everything is adequate and can be used.
Yeah, so this is a firefighter driven project through the auxiliary. My understanding, so we have pull-out decks, but there's so much equipment, especially in the back of the rescue, that we need to have it organized. We're currently, the way that the rescue is set up with the stuff in the back is that they pull out the tray in the back and they're having to rifle through. There must be 10 different bags back there that contain our litter, our ropes, our rigging gear, the backcountry wheel, all this stuff. And this company essentially has created organizational metal framing that gets bolted down onto the pull-out tray that keeps everything in its specific spot. It's a lot safer for them to drive that way. And then it will also make it just more succinct on a call. They're not trying to, again, rifle through and pile stuff out in order to find a single carabiner or a single piece of rigging. They also, in that same thing, they planned a different pull-out unit for the back of the command vehicle, which is the truck that I drive, that's specifically set up for incident command. It will be very helpful in the fact that the district doesn't have a vehicle that's actually set up to run a big call, which we found during the Galter fire, where we were running a very large call out of a cab of a truck, which is fine for our normal everyday calls all the way up to even a normal structure fire. But when we get into a really large expanded incident, we need more resources, we need more space. We need to be able to have ability to organize and plan, and we didn't have that. And that will now be something that the district has available to us in that vehicle. So thanks to the auxiliary for that, and thanks
Yeah.
to the firefighters for heading up that program. It's going to be a good operational improvement for us.
That's it? Okay, we're moving on to old business. I think you talked about the revised budget. So we can move on to
There's no action to take until.
no action, no. Under new business, the audit exemption. And this is my item. We were late with our audit exemption, and we need to have a motion tonight because we're ready with all the paperwork for our audit exemption. We need to put it in. So was there any other discussion? Niffy, did you want to?
I would make a motion that we go ahead and file an audit exemption for this past year.
I'll second.
Okay, and just so people here know, we are budgeted for a full audit next year. It's been a number of years and it will be done next year. It's in the budget. Call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we've got that. Thank you. Any questions? No. Public comment. You wanna? Did you have something, Sheila?
You wanna do it when someone's here or?
You're gonna do it, okay.
No.
No, she's not.
And I,
I was gonna, this is in reference to Mr. Green. 2 meetings ago, I think it was, Paul Trost commented.
Can you come up a little closer to the microphone?
You want the microphone?
Yeah, so that your voice is all recorded.
yeah, we want to record it all.
Okay, we can just pass it down.
A couple of meetings ago, Paul Trost commented that the board was the most contentious that he'd seen in a while, and he said it's really not one person's fault, it's like everybody's, and I have to say I beg to differ with that. I think the common denominator for a long time has been Mr. Green, and I'm disappointed that he's not here tonight. I was going to say something a couple of meetings ago, and he left that meeting before he got a chance to. Garrett, that's my spot. Yeah. So this correspondence is in regards, and I've sent this letter to the board, so they already have a copy of it. This correspondence is in regards to the performance and behavior of board member Steve Green. As a resident of the Golden Gate Fire Department District and former board member, I'm appalled at his behavior, not only at board meetings, but also his correspondence via email to district members, which is not sanctioned by the board as he'd been instructed. There are state statutes around board member performance, responsibilities, and behaviors. And in my opinion, he has violated almost all of them. His conduct during board meetings is reprehensible. He talks over board members, talks out of turn, and makes side comments that are totally inappropriate. His comments directed to a board member border on almost being racist, which is not part, shouldn't be part of any public meeting. In his current position, he has done nothing for the district members, and in fact has caused the board to focus on censuring him several times and rehashing old agenda items he continues to bring up. He's also stormed out of at least 2 board meetings, jeopardizing the quorum requirement for the agenda items, the future agenda items. I've quoted the statute numbers in case anybody wanted to look them up. It's Colorado Statute 24-12-101. That's the oath of office for board members, and Colorado Statute 18-9-106, which describes disorderly conduct, and Statute 19-9-111, which describes harassment and obscene language, which Mr. Green has used in the past. This was referenced in the past by another resident after being present at a public meeting where Mr. Green used foul language. That resident also wrote to the board and spoke to the Jeffco sheriff about violating state statutes. The sheriff at that time felt that the board should be the one to file the complaint and not a private citizen. It's time for the board to act, either filing a complaint with the sheriff for these violations or contacting an attorney for advice on these matters. If not, it's time for Mr. Green to resign from the board so that a replacement can be appointed that will actually contribute to the function of the board. The residents of GDF-PD deserve better and deserve a board that will focus on the issues at hand and not have to continually focus on the behavior of one board member.
Thanks, Carlin.
I apologize.
Trent Miller is online and he would also call it. Go ahead, Trent.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, well, I just want to read from a letter. First of all, my name is Trent Miller, and I just want to read from a letter that I submitted to Board President Curley earlier this week. So I'll just read from that letter. I am writing in response to the recent and ongoing behaviors of a certain board member. In many of the past board meetings, Mr. Green has been belligerent, condescending, and outright rude to other members of the board and to the public. Not only has Mr. Green stormed out of several meetings because he did not get his way, but he has also made untrue accusations to members of the public during the public comment period of a board meeting. And at the last board meeting, he made disparaging comments that could be construed as racial to another member of the board. I have been a resident of this community for almost 28 years, and I am embarrassed by the behavior of Mr. Green and completely do not and will not condone his actions. His inappropriate comments and behavior over the last 2.5 years have done nothing to benefit this fire district, and his actions should not be allowed to continue. As a parent, I taught my kids better, as this behavior was and is not allowed in my household. Likewise, this type of behavior should not be accepted or encouraged in our neighborhoods, our communities, and at the fire board meetings. There is no place where this type of behavior should be allowed. So as such, I would like to request the following. I implore the rest of the board to publicly not condone these actions and speak out against them. I request that Mr. Green make a formal apology to the gentleman that was in the audience during the last board meeting for the unsubstantiated claims that he levied against the gentleman during the public comment period. And finally, I ask Mr. Green to resign his position from the board, as he has done nothing to contribute to the goodness and well-being of this fire district. Finally, I like to say, for what it's worth, I don't care if our fire department responds to 1 call, 90 calls, or 190 calls. When the department responds, they need to have the best training and equipment available, plus have the full support of the board, because you never know when that 1 call may just be for you or one that you love. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trent. Right, public comments still. We have anybody else that wants to? Sheila?
This is for the chief to pass on the firefighter, during the car accident where the car went down off, that's the 3rd time we've had a car go down that same gully in a while. One of the older residents lives right there, and it was really icy there, and she apparently got out of her car and walked down to see what was going on. And Brian walked her all the way back to her car, and she just wanted to say how much she appreciated that.
I'll pass that on.
Yeah, be sure to pass that on. Anybody else, public comment? Any questions? All right, well, our next regular board meeting is December 5th, right here at 7 o'clock. That will be the finalization of the budget is the main item on there, and then anything else that we'll deal with. If nothing further, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
I do to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.